All right, what is up, guys? Coming back to you with a new setup. I got a video idea from Ty Snow to do some insurance coverage on homes in Black Forest area. I went ahead and I found some homes that were similar price, square footage, acreage, things like that, so that we could go over some examples as far as the insurance coverage goes and see if we can find some affordable coverage for some of these properties. Starting off with this guy right here. 15520 Bar X Road. This is a beautiful house out in Black Forest. And I'll scroll through some of the pictures for you guys. Speaking with, I love this big garage over here. Speaking with my insurance rep, we kind of went through some of the factors that they consider when they're looking at pricing out some of the coverage and the things in the fire areas that are going to increase that risk. As you can see from these photos, the house is surrounded by trees, but the house is actually also fairly well mitigated. There's not a whole lot of brush and just like stuff on the ground that could possibly catch on fire. And even though these trees are there, it would take quite a bit for these trees themselves to actually catch on fire unless there was something real big by. And there's nothing directly next to the house. Again, even though there are a few trees pretty close to the house, there's not really a whole lot. Looks like they did trim a good bit of some of the forestry around the house just to help with probably some of the fire mitigation in the wind. Black Forest does have a lot of wind out there, and you don't want one of those big trees falling on your multi-million-dollar house. And I definitely share that sentiment. Very, very nice house. I'll show you guys a picture towards the end here. It kind of shows you exactly where the property is at in the neighborhood, which is right here. So you can see, I mean, it's pretty fairly well surrounded by trees, except for a few pockets here and then around the garage there. This house wasn't too terrible as far as coverage goes. What we heard was that the quotes that were being given were about the 10,000 to 13,000 range. You can tell this house does have a standard shingle roof. We did look it up. This roof was replaced in August of 2023, so it's a pretty dang new roof. This property, let me reference my email. This one, 10,400 unbundled, 9,300 bundled. What that means is bundling like a auto insurance with your homeowners. They're able to give you some better discounts. This is my insurance rep. She works for Allstate. She's able to get our clients pretty good coverages, especially around Colorado Springs with some of these areas. This is going to be likely high because, again, it's surrounded by trees. And even though the roof is new, it is an area that has a lot of hail and a lot of wind. And so 9,300, really not that terrible when you're looking at about that $1,000 a month mark. If you could stay under that, this puts you closer to the 700, 750 a month mark, which if you're budgeting, this gives you a much better idea what to look for as far as monthly payments go. Move to our next property. This one is a cool property. This is a really big one. It's a beautiful house. Sits on this big property. Got a little pond, big barn, couple other garages. This house is a little bit more rural. When I say that, it just means it's a little bit further out than a couple of these other houses that we looked at. All of these homes are within a couple of miles of each other. They're all in the same zip code, so they are all comparables. They're very similar sized properties, like 5-6 acres of land. They're very similar sized homes. High 3,000 square foot, the 4,000 square foot. They're priced right about the 1.25, 1.3 million range. So again, very very comparable properties. Beautiful house sitting on a bunch of land. Again, this one was the highest price as far as insurance goes for a few factors. Even though this doesn't have a whole lot of brush nearby, there's trees that are just right butt up against the house, which do increase the risk a little bit. There hasn't been as much mitigation done on the forestry. As you can see, there's just a lot of forestry that's just right up next to the house here. This house is also off of a dirt road. It's pretty far out there. So this house is nowhere near a fire hydrant. And this house has a roof from 2016. Those factors combine to create a higher rate than would be desirable by most people. This one's going to be 14,100 unbundled and 12,900 bundled, which is a little bit higher than you would really like to see. Moving on to our last house. This is the most expensive property on the list. This is also the most affordable for insurance, and I'll explain to you why. You look at the picture here. This house has no forestry around it, really no trees. There's not even really any bushes or anything around it, short of a couple here and there. That's really not going to pose any threat should a fire come by. Even in high winds, this area is probably going to be pretty well protected from fire danger. Not exactly that they had somebody come out and do mitigation. This is just an area where there's just not a whole lot of trees out in the plains and the side of Black Forest. This house is also just off of a main road. In one of the other pictures here, you can see the telephone poles. There's a road right out here on the other side of this house, so it is pretty close to a fire hydrant. And the roof on this house was done in 2023, so just under a year and a half old. This is a beautiful house. It's a very big house, over 4,000 square feet. It is on, I think, like 6-acre property, or like 5.5 acres. This is a very, very desirable house. And if you're budgeting for that $10,000 a month payment, you do want to know what your insurance and your tax is going to look like. This house also was the cheapest as far as property tax goes. Let's scroll through the rest of these pictures, and I'll get back to the numbers. I thought this was really cool. They've got almost like a track out here. You could like rip a quad around or something like that. And I like these rural areas. You get a lot of benefits to them. And then you got the shop out here for all the toys. This one was $7,300 unbundled and $6,700 bundled. Keep in mind, we're using pretty generic inputs for this. So like guesstimating as far as like a date of birth, and just kind of using like a generic person, like almost just like doing the quote off of like me myself. And I think all we did was just pump the age up a little bit to try to match what the buyer is going to be. What we're looking at here is a massive difference. Even from the bar 10, you're talking nearly $3,000 less a year, and it's going to be a combo, like I said, of that roof and the location. The fact that there's not a whole lot of fire danger. It's close to a fire hydrant should something happen, but there's nothing really close to it that's going to create extra risk factors for that house itself. I'll go down and I'll give you an idea of what the coverages were. So for every house we quoted the same coverage. They're all right about the same price. $900,000 dwelling with extended limits, and then $500,000 liability. Even though the homes are listed for 1.3 to 1.5, that's not exactly what's going to cost for them to be rebuilt from the ground up should a fire happen. And then 1% deductibles across the board. So we can have some more flexibility in these rates. You know, if we need somebody who needs a lower deductible, higher coverages, things like that, we're able to do that. What we did was we created a blanket coverage. Just going to give you an idea as far as budgeting goes. And again, the reason I say that is because if you are looking at a $10,000 a month mortgage payment, that extra $1,000 a month could be a make or break if you're trying to keep things, to the budget where you're able to make it work. This gives us a better idea so that now we know, let's say these are realistically the 3 homes the buyer is looking for. This gives us a better idea of, let's say he's on the fence about these 3, and then this gives us that edge because his payment's going to be a little bit less. These are the types of numbers that we can look for, especially if you are looking in areas like Woodland Park or Divide, or really anywhere that has a higher fire risk where, if we need to look into costs on insurance or things like that and figure out mitigation, we can do that. So anybody that has interest in, let's say a property that's in a more rural area, or you're just a high fire area and you want us to get a better idea as far as what the cost goes, definitely let me know. We can look up property tax and we can look up the insurance. Typical lender, mortgage advisor is going to quote you a guesstimate. This allows us to actually get you a pretty accurate number. If you're looking at a house and you're pretty sure you want to jump on it, let us run some numbers for you and figure out if that's actually going to fall into the budget. So, guys, have any questions? Any areas in town that you want me to dive a little bit further into? Me and Julie can look at some coverage on other areas. Again, Woodland Park Divide, a lot of people looking up there. Love to answer some questions for you guys. So anything at all, shoot me a message, comment below, and I will dive into it for you. And thank you guys for watching.